Okay, I think it's working. Kate Milafalcha, welcome to everybody watching. Oh, Irish Granny Helen, thank you. And welcome very much to Gerald. And here we are knitting and chatting. And how are you doing, Gerald?
I am doing well, thank you. I have printed off the pattern that you were referencing about knitting. I have
This one?
Yes, that
I
one.
finally did it.
That one.
Oh, you're so good.
And I am behind on my knitting. So this is how much that I've gotten done, and it's not even what should be because I was freaked out because I'm like going, oh, I'm so far behind. I'm so far behind. I'm so far behind. I've got to teach Helen how to, how to turn a heel. So I was working on getting that done. And so anyhow,
I was really afraid before we talked. I was really afraid I was going to be in trouble. I had my excuse already. The dog ate my homework,
mm-hmm.
Because I've had a really stressful week.
Of
And
course.
when time finally rolled around for me to have a minute to sit and knit, all I wanted to do was vegetate for half an hour before I went to sleep,
Oh, yeah.
So because I have to pay attention to what I'm doing, I'm not good at multitasking some sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, oh my God, Gerald is going to be so disappointed in me.
Nope, not at all.
Phew, what a relief.
Not at
Look
all.
at all the people. There's people here now. Everyone has to forgive me. I'm really, really, really nearsighted, and it's hard for me to see and talk. I also cannot walk and chew gum. So,
are you chewing gum right now while we're on a live?
No, because I might choke.
Okay. I'm just making sure. This is crazy.
So Lizzo wanted to have us not discuss fluff. Well, I think everybody needs to understand just from the outset that for 4 years, I've done really serious content. And continuously, I'm getting worse and worse and worse, more and more and more negative input about it being too much of a bummer. I was making everybody depressed. Nobody wanted to hear it because it was lowering the vibrations. So I made an executive decision after the election, because I made predictions and people lost their minds about that,
Mm-hmm.
which, by the way, a lot of them are already coming true, but okay.
Interesting how that happens, right?
Isn't that funny? Yeah. So I made the decision to do entertaining, more lighthearted, creative, instructive stuff with some philosophy thrown in on the public YouTube channel. And anybody who wants what always did before, the heavy duty other stuff that I won't even say the word because is on my Substack behind the paywall.
Mm-hmm.
And you're welcome to join. I think it's $5. I'm contemplating doing a membership on YouTube because I think it's cheaper. They wouldn't let me charge any less on Substack. I hate asking people to pay money. I can't afford to pay money for anybody I watch. And I listen to a lot of podcasts and they all have Patreon stuff.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm dying to know. Every once in a while, they'll release something from Patreon onto the public feed. And I know I'm missing out on all the good stuff. It's really hard to be poor in America.
Yeah.
So as I laugh. So,
well, but it is, you're still making content available and people do have an option. So it's all good for you.
Is there something wrong with your mustache? Somebody wants to know.
Tony's like, where's the left side flip on your beautiful mustache? They're there.
Now be honest. How much time in the morning does that all take?
Less than 3 minutes.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Because
that's very good.
I don't really care.
Well, notice who you're talking to. Somebody asked me today, why did you shave your head off?
Well, but it is again, it's a habit. It's like I know how I know how to work it. So
Snidely Whiplash.
there you
Do you
go.
know who that is?
Yes.
So we have my little box of provocative questions, but before we started, I was asking Gerald if maybe there were a couple of current events that we could kind of talk about if we keep it entertaining.
I will
So,
keep it as high level and
oh,
as
well, that's
non-threatening as
impossible. The
I can.
bar is very low.
Well, there is that. I'll keep it very high level, low brow.
So this is a subject that absolutely fascinates me. Kind of, I'm fascinated in my horror, you know. Uh, and there's nothing I like better than judging. So what's up with Melania's hat? What, are you shocked? Speechless?
Uh, uh, well, part of it is I'm sure because it was low enough so that it hid her face in shadow, so you couldn't see the funny faces that she was making.
I think it was intentional to hide her eyes from the public and to
Probably.
create a broad personal space so that she didn't have to get too close to her husband.
Well, that does make sense. And you know, spy versus spy, a kiss blocker. I
Melano.
Wow.
Oh, you guys are hot today.
um I think that family has done so much to isolate people who have I'm trying to be very politically vague, who have a tendency to be very good at fashion and makeup and hair. And
There's a rivalry going on there. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm thinking that no one with any good fashion sense wanted anything to do with the family.
Well, they're all very curated. You know what I mean by that? It's like not a hair out of place. Set aside taste, you know, because look at me. But not a hair out of place. The makeup is perfect, and it's very Stepford Wifeian. You know, it's
Yeah.
very kind of plastic. Like, for example, what about that pancake Ivanka had on her head? It was just stunning. Nate said something very interesting that I hadn't really thought of. I think subconsciously that's why I found it startling. It is very militaristic.
Yeah. Yeah. It does send a, you know, and let's face it, clothes do send a message. Whether or
Sorry. See, this is why I don't do lives. Somebody says, oh, she seems to always be ready to go to 45's funeral. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
so I think yeah. It was all very coordinated.
Stiff.
And it will photograph well. It can be manipulated well, as and brought forth for whatever it is that they're trying to do.
I didn't watch any of it, but I
did not
was
either.
told go look at the pictures. And the first picture I saw, I thought it was Jimmy Carter's funeral. I thought, oh, why did I think they were something different? And so that just sort of shows you, yeah. Well, as somebody who looks utterly ridiculous, and no offense, because that's very cute on you, I don't look real great in a hat. My head is like a melon, and hats just don't. Now, my mother was beautiful in hats.
Mm-hmm.
Could wear any hat, anytime. But I always feel like I've got like a pea on a posy. It's just never quite right. So well, I don't advocate for certain styles or anything.
Yeah. And yeah, I just think there was bad advice or calculated advice or both. So I think this is all part of a dog and pony show.
I agree. Chris, don't sweat it. I relate. I think we're all in the same boat. no apologies necessary, and you can always catch up later when it's more comfortable for you. Don't worry about it. I just get a lot of input from people. Why are you not doing what you used to do? Well, I am.
You
Just
are. You're just doing it in a different place.
elsewhere. Right. So, shall we do a question?
Oh, sure. Oh, by the way, so I did do some prep for knitting my socks.
Oh, okay.
I was unable to find the right needles that I needed, so I went to a local uh, fabric
Store.
and
Yeah.
yarn place and found some needles. And what's interesting is I bought the wrong size
Oh,
because I didn't read the pattern completely. Because she says cast on using
the larger.
3.25 millimeter, and then you'll go down to a 2.75.
3, right?
Yeah. So I'm just going to use 3.25 for the whole dang thing.
Who cares?
Well, yeah.
It's not going to make a difference. It's a sock.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I am a person who I'll be knitting 2 socks at a time, but I'll do stuff.
Overachiever.
No, because that way I don't lose track of it. If I'll do that, with one sock, and then I'll do it on another, and then that way I can go back and forth.
I think it's funny how we kind of have similar color here
Yes.
going on. Did you do that on purpose?
I absolutely did.
Very
That's
good.
exactly what I did.
Excellent. So we'll have green sock day when they're finished. We can both wear them. On the other hand, I don't even know if this will fit me. Because gauge.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing is because I was like going, I don't know what the pattern does not give a gauge.
Oh, so it wasn't just me. Sometimes my eyes are bad, and sometimes I give up because I search and and it's like one tiny line in a corner someplace.
Yeah.
But I don't see it. Oh, I feel much better. Good.
Yeah, it's not there, and I did look to see if it was in the comments. I did not see it in the comments. So I'm just I may actually Helen do a 2x2 rib rather than a knit one purl one rib.
You are such an iconoclast.
Well, I am a rebel because I like the knit 2 purl 2 rib better.
I'm going to count my stitches here because I vaguely remember when I was hunting for a sock pattern, something about like 20, 22, something like that. So let me count here.
I could do that thing that annoys people.
What's
6, 2, 1, 4, 13, 27, 18, 37, 4, 6.
You're hilarious. I'm just having a problem distinguishing between it's a rib, and I'm not counting the purl properly.
Yeah.
So you don't need to confuse me. I'm already there.
Oh, I know. I used to do that all the time, and when we would get together with friends to knit, and people would be like, "Stop it! I'm trying to do this." And I said, "I will count your stitches. It's okay." This is
so about 28 for 4 inches is what I've got, and I think that's probably pretty good. I think it was in the mid-20s range, and it's a sock. So okay. Yeah. And, so I'm sorry I interrupted.
Rose blue. I am using this is Guernsey 5-ply. It's wool, 100% wool.
I had somebody give me a gigantic bag of balls of yarn, and majority of them were not used, but most of them were unwrapped. So I don't know what they are, but most of them were sock.
Yeah.
I had a friend who left the state, and
I'm a big fan of knitting DK weight socks because I like a really tight knit.
Yeah.
And sock yarn makes beautiful shawls. So
Shawls?
shawls, yeah.
Do you just use single ply? I mean, like
Yeah,
one
just use single
strand?
ply, and you can knit lace with sock yarn.
Well, I wish I'd known that because I struggle,
Yeah,
Yeah. But you're not a therapist. You don't want to
yeah.
know.
But I am curious to see what people are working on as they're listening in. So you can pop that into the chat. I actually went and taught a friend how to knit yesterday.
Oh, how nice. Did you start with like heavier yarn and
Yes, we
bigger
started
needles?
with a bulky yarn,
Mm-hmm.
and I did a knitted cast on. And then that way, when it came time to knit the first row, she already had the rhythm of what it was like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Is
that,
this an adult?
this is an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I said, Kim, this is a learning project. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be horrible.
And
It's
and that's the beauty of knitting. I would say that to anybody who feels challenged by taking it up.
yeah,
What is the worst thing that can happen? You have to unravel it.
yeah,
Which in it is it's very therapeutic. I've done it often. You can sit and watch TV and unravel your knitting. Just it's very soothing.
oh yeah. I do see that secondhand news with Jill said I'm finishing a blanket for my mom.
Oh,
And just started a
nice.
granny square blanket for me. Very nice. Um,
With sick yarn. What's sick yarn?
I think it's sock yarn. Could you knit a small blanket with sick yarn? You could. You could even knit a small blanket with sock yarn. And you can also hold you can hold multiple strings of yarn together.
Yeah,
So if you had two sock weight yarns, it makes about a DK weight, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
So
You
you
can
can
do
do that.
whatever you want. And if you don't like how it turns out, you can just rip it out and start over. You can always reuse yarn. You can go to Goodwill and buy a wool sweater and unravel it and use
You
that
can.
yarn. Yeah. Uh, Knitting is very forgiving. It's not like cutting out a pattern to sew something. Once you snip that with this, oh my God,
Oh yeah, that's
trauma.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So before I start counting stitches, let me throw a really difficult philosophical question at you.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. I don't know what it is yet. Hold on.
Okay. I'm going to switch what I'm knitting. I'm going to work on. Oh no.
Speaking of fluff, name an animal that you wish you could shapeshift into.
An animal that I
Mhm.
an animal that I wish I could shapeshift into. Ooh, wow. That's a fun question. I actually think an owl would be a good animal to shapeshift into.
Symbol of wisdom.
Symbol of wisdom.
So you're going to be running against type, huh? Sorry.
Did you just snort? Did you just laugh so
No,
hard
but
you
I
snorted?
can.
Okay.
No, I would admit it. I can if you want. I
Um,
definitely don't.
no, I like the ability to see in the dark and to be able to really have a, a a wide perspective and to be able to, excuse me.
Yeah, they can see like 360 just about.
I like the ability to be able to be in one place and to see lots of different viewpoints and different angles.
And
So,
shape shifting means that you can go back and forth, right?
yes,
So that being a bird uh, has its appeal to get for a quick getaway, right?
yes, and they're also very quiet. Believe it or not, this is not very quiet. Now my husband is his totem animal is actual totem animal is a bird, and by God, I need to put I want to put a bell on him because I'm concentrating on something and he'll walk into a room and he'll go, "Hi," and
Oh my
I like
God.
jump 6 feet out of the chair.
He'd make a good spy, right?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Well, my animal familiar, this is not somebody to shapeshift into, but I often say my animal familiar is Eeyore.
Mm,
I love Eeyore. I have mad respect for Eeyore. I think it's hilarious.
yep.
I like his attitude, it's so
Oh
funny.
yeah.
I don't, you know, this is what's called overthinking, okay? Trying to come up with the idea of what animal to shapeshift into. All I can think about is the vulnerabilities of being that animal with the environment at risk the way it is. Isn't that awful? There are a
No.
lot of animals I could think of that I'd
Mhm.
like to be able to, kind of metamorphose into briefly and then come back. But, who wants to be a cat and get run over? Who wants to be a dog and get chained up by some lunatic? Who wants to be a deer and I mean, I really think about the relationship between animals and people. It's so
Mhm.
problematic. And birds, I hate to tell you this, but if you're going to be an owl, you better hurry up because Rachel Carson, remember that book, Silent Spring?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? She
Yeah.
had ESB.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Bird flu, this is supposed to be lighthearted, but so I'll just say this: eagles are dying off from it.
Yep. Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
we have a couple of chickens. I'm looking at them in a whole new way.
Oh sure. Sure.
Yeah.
So okay. So Rose Blue said, just asking y'all, but Mama made us all hats, scarves for winter as kids. For winter. Yeah, I mean that's what you did. Linda Bishop said a very large fling bird that is, I think, endangered can be protected from Elmer Fudd. Yeah, I wonder who Elmer Fudd. Chris Queen said, when it comes to knitting, I'm a loose woman, so I always use a size smaller than called for. Knitting a sample is against my principles. Well, you and Granny are the same way. I
Never
I like,
take the gauge, never do a sample, never read the pattern, just go for it. Live dangerously.
and I because I used to teach knitting, I would tell people, I'm going to tell you how I think it's best to be done. Knit a gauge swatch, read the pattern twice, and then after that, you're welcome to ignore things because on your own head be it.
Well, I'm taking your advice and I'm trying to be more conscious of your good advice. I will say this though, some of it is learning styles. I can read instructions 95 times, but until I do it and do it wrong, I don't really learn
Yep.
it. It's just the way it is, right?
Yeah. Well, and I am a firm believer. Um, you're always learning when you're knitting. I think you're always learning when you're crocheting or crafting, doing that stuff. Um, Grace is not knitting today, but is it okay that I am cross stitching? Of course, it's okay that you're.
We'll allow it.
Yeah, we will. Well, Helen, let's discuss this. Should we allow
I don't
Grace?
know what are the relative merits of cross stitching versus knitting. I don't know. I mean, cross stitching is
Well,
not quite as practical. Can't wear a cross stitch pillow,
no, but you can sleep on it.
but art for art's sake.
Oh my goodness, art for art's sake.
Yes, arts
Hmm,
gratia artis.
there you go.
Okay.
And Rose Blue, I've never knit with. Well, I have not knit a lot of blankets because I think knitted blankets are really heavy. So I'd rather have them be a sweater. So I like knitting sweaters. So
Well, my advice to anybody who wants to branch out, they want to knit, and they knit a hat. And a
mhm.
hat's a really good place to start because there's not a lot of different technique that you have to know. You just knit right in a circle. But you want to branch out a little bit. I would suggest making a dog sweater because
Mhm.
dog sweaters, who cares how they fit? I mean, you go through the motions of trying to make sure that you're doing it right, but it's not a tragedy. Let me tell you, it's a tragedy when you spend months making a sweater and it doesn't fit. That's a tragedy.
Yeah.
But a dog sweater, dog's not going to complain. It'll fit some dog somewhere. You'll have a neighbor you
Yes.
can give it to.
Well,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Baby sweaters. I mean, come
that's
on. Babies are
yes.
cute.
That really, really helped me. I started making cute little things for my grandchildren. And, I made a knit dress. And it's if you're making it for a 6-month-old, who cares, right? Uh, and with children, especially babies, you can just make it for the next size up from what they are. Because if it doesn't fit them quite well, it'll fit them in a while when they grow.
Yep. Oh yeah. Chris Queen is knitting a scarf in a 4x4 rib. The yarn is just acrylic in variegated fall colors, greens to orange and rust.
Oh, that'll be so pretty. I love
Yeah.
fall colors. Yeah.
Grace Gilbert is left-handed, so teaching my grandchildren to knit and crochet was easy.
Because they could just watch her backwards, kind of like watch her face on.
Could be. And Linda Bishop would be a phoenix.
Oh, wow.
And
Not afraid of
Chris,
fire, huh?
not afraid of fire. And Chris Queen said, I'd be a cat because I'm halfway there already, although I want gills. So a catfish. So, but yeah. Well,
Well,
and
that was a funny question. Yes,
I
go
think
ahead.
it's a great question. And it is one of those things I think there is, we've talked about this before. There's science behind the importance of doing things with your hands.
Oh,
So
yeah.
cross stitch, crochet, needlepoint, tatting. Those are things. There's certain things that it does. It helps as you're developing. It helps the synapses grow and all that stuff. So
And as an adult, it puts you into a meditative state. There's something
yes,
really physiologically positive effect of doing those sorts of things. You can get lost in it. You don't have to. I mean, you can listen to a book or something while you're doing it.
yeah.
But even that is kind of a mental vacation. It's really, really a good thing to do.
Mhm.
And that question kind of reminds me of a question. It's not in the box, but well, it might be, but I don't have the card. If you could have, I think about this a lot. Now, I don't watch the comic book movies because I don't care, but I
Yeah.
do think about this. If you could have any magic ability or superpower that you could possibly have, what do you think it would be?
You're asking the good. What's your superhero? Your superpower?
Okay.
Yeah. What's your superpower?
I asked first.
I know. I'm repeating it to buy time.
I know. That's a trick, the guilty people use.
Oh,
Politicians.
stop.
If you ask a politician a question, they'll always repeat it back because it buys them time. Isn't
Yeah,
that interesting? It's a technique.
it is. So what would I think I would secondhand news with Jill said teleportation.
Ooh, yeah. That'd be fun. Yeah.
Um I like the ability to Um, well, I like the ability to, how do I say this? Because,
X-ray vision, so you can look through people's clothes. Go ahead, say it.
no, no, no. How boring, Helen.
I know. I worked in the medical field. I could just say, seen one, seen them all.
Well, and, it's like if I were to wear a hat like this, I don't want to see what's in there.
No, you
I
don't.
think the ability to, it's like to um, manipulate my size so that I can squeeze through small places,
Yeah.
but then also have the ability to be extremely strong.
So we'd have to call you Plastic Man?
Well, I think there probably is a plastic man out there.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Okay.
But so, yeah. What about you?
I think I would, because I'm super, super nosy. I think I'd like to be invisible
Hmm.
because it could get you out of trouble.
It could.
Some bad guy coming after you, just disappear, right? Go
Hmm.
invisible. You want to snoop on somebody, you want to know the truth about something, just go invisible. Here's a question. If you're invisible and you're apparently your clothes become invisible with you, that seems to be the rule. Well, I hope so. Because when you go back into visibility, are you naked?
Well, I think I don't. You know,
These
I
are
think
technical questions that are very
these are
important.
very, very technical
We need
questions.
these answers because here's this is a life of crime. I'm telling you, I have the wrong calling. I was made for a life of crime. Not really. If you're invisible, you could go like you could steal candy bars. Nobody would know. But you could put them in your pocket and would they be invisible too, or would they be a disembodied candy bar wandering around the store?
See, that's a very interesting question. I think it depends upon your um how you came across this superpower.
Yeah.
Because if you have the power of invisibility, then anything that's touching you would become invisible too, perhaps.
Perfect. That's perfect. Yeah.
So we could work with that
We
because
could stipulate that rule.
yeah, I think it could get very cold if your clothes did not also become invisible.
Well, it would make rematerializing problematic.
Or it could make you very popular, depending upon where you decide
No,
to.
trust me on this.
Oh,
Seriously, it could be problematic. Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting though to be able to listen to what people really think, to
oh
know what's
yeah.
really going on? I would love that.
Well, I like the idea of Wonder Woman and the lasso of truth.
I'd love.
I like the ability to tell when people are lying.
Well, you would know if you were invisible because you would hear what they were really saying behind
Well,
everyone's
yes,
back,
but
right?
yes.
Hopefully.
So yes, I
Me
have
too.
put a lot of thought into it. And hello, Tapestry of the Unseen.
Oh, that's a great name.
Hmm.
Very good name. I like that. Can you take a passport? You wouldn't need a passport. You could walk right through TSA and they'd never know the difference. Of course, you'd have to stand on the entire flight.
That's true.
There's problems here that we haven't thought out well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times, part of that, the superhero movies, um, these superpowers, they just happen to show up, or they happen as a result of, like Spider-Man being bit by a radioactive spider.
Oh, is that? See, I
So,
don't know these stories. Is that true? That's
well, that's,
hilarious.
I believe, how Spider-Man initially got it
Because where did the radioactive spider come from?
from the lab. They were working in a lab.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I think there's some, I don't know. I mean, I think there's always these superpowers or people who they end up getting them. They are acquired through some unfortunate series of events.
So
And then
there's
they have
a,
to
yeah,
learn how to deal
how
with
to
it.
use it. Somebody was mentioning time travel. I hadn't thought of that. I
Mhm,
would love to be able to time travel.
mhm,
Do you know who they think might have had the ability to see past and present, like remote view? Jules Verne. You want to hear an interesting story about Jules Verne? This is
yes.
unbelievable. So he was French, and he had a book, and he took the book to the publisher. He'd already was a famous writer at the time. And
Mhm,
his publisher said, I don't care who you are, I cannot publish this. Nobody is going to believe it. Because it was nonfiction, and it was Jules Verne looking into the future and describing what Paris was like in 1966 or something,
mhm,
in the 60s. And he talked about cars and airplanes and girls wearing mini skirts and women having jobs in business. And the publisher was like, you'll be vilified. You can't write about this. This is ridiculous. Nobody's going to believe it. It's going to make all the conventional people mad. It's not worth your reputation. Forget about it. So he took it home and he locked it in a safe with notes and stuff. So this safe ended up in one of the barns on his father's estate, and Jules Verne inherited the estate. The thing stayed in the barn. He
mhm.
died. Other people inherited it in the family. It went, down through the family line. So eventually, and I'm forgetting a few of the details. I forget who the man is that brought this story to a culmination, but it doesn't really matter. So this guy goes to buy the property, and he says, what's in that safe? And the land guy, what's he called, like the caretaker said, I don't know, my father was the caretaker before me, and we've been trying to get into that safe for years, and we do not know what's in it. We don't know who
Mhm.
owned it. Yeah. So they open up this safe, and sure enough, it was original paperwork. It was the book from back when Jules Verne was alive and tried to get it published. And not only did it include the book unpublished, but it included a series of letters back and forth between him and his publisher, arguing whether it should be
Ah,
published or not and why it shouldn't be published. So he was prophetic. He was able to see into the future. And he did predict a lot of things that did come true. He predicted unrest in the streets of Paris. Well, if you
mhm.
remember, there was rioting in Paris in the early to mid 60s. I thought you were going to maybe pray here. You're putting on a prayer
No,
show on
no,
me.
yeah.
And what else did he predict? That people couldn't believe the notion of cars, because this is pre-car
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. And that young women would be running around not only with their ankles showing, but oh my God, up to mid thigh. That was just horrifying to them. And that women would actually be employed outside the home. Just,
Well, isn't that interesting when, there's so much stuff that happens, because I've been watching a little bit of Cosmos, the Neil
Carl
deGrasse
Sagan.
Tyson. Yes. Well, this is the follow-up to Carl Sagan. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, I never saw Carl Sagan do it. I read his book. I knew
Yes.
and I've never seen the other guy do it either, but I know about it. Yeah.
It's actually very well done. It is. I find the hang on. I find it's very well done, and they are they're Neil is very respectful of Carl Sagan.
Kind of his memory. And
Yes, and apparently Neil got to visit Carl Sagan one summer on his he was 17 or something like that. Carl invited him to visit his labs and to have conversations about astronomy, all that stuff. But okay, so why did I bring that up?
Well, we were talking about seeing into the future and seeing into
Oh,
the past.
and part of it, I find it very interesting, is that oftentimes, when somebody who discovers something new, and they talk about it and they talk about it and they talk about it, and people are like going, no, 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 but then all of a sudden they go, oh well, yeah. There's no gap between what was it that made it go from everybody's disagreeing with them to everybody's agreeing with them.
It's desensitization. It's when you have a new idea, it's so challenging to the majority of people. But the more people have time to digest a new idea,
Mhm.
and the more people around them are less critical and challenging about it, give them some sort of permission to entertain the idea. That's how culture changes, you know.
Yes.
Carl Sagan, in his younger years, was a huge proponent of the truth of UFOs and ETs.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went through this middle period of his life where he was very conventional. Oh, that's just nonsense. Because career, his profession,
Sure.
he had academic people to impress and he was making strides. But later in life, he went back to considering it a possibility. And there's a whole subpopulation of astrophysicists and anthropologists and historians, academics and scientists who really think we're beyond that argument. It's time to get real about this. Why are we still arguing? Do they exist? That's not the issue anymore. We have more important issues to ask, like what are they doing here? Why are they
Yeah.
here? And physicists, especially physicists, plasma physicists, are predisposed to actually believe in it because
Mm-hmm.
they understand science.
Yeah. Well, I remember because I was at a I remember watching Cosmos on PBS on Sunday nights. It was a big, big deal for me, and I loved it. It was groundbreaking. And I do remember Carl Sagan at one point saying, who are we really to think that we would be the only ones in the universe?
Mathematically, it's unlikely that we're not.
Yes.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
the odds. The odds are.
Yeah.
I talked to a man who had been a Harvard fellow, I think is the title. He
Uh-huh.
was I'm going to give you the wrong job description, but it's in that general area. He's like an experimental mathematician and a neuroanatomist, like kind of smart. And he has written books about this, and he's written books about the fact that he talked to ETs. And this guy
Mm.
has tenure at Ivy League colleges. They let him teach classes. They're very accepting of this whole argument that he makes, and he makes no bones about it. I heard him one night being interviewed on a podcast. There's this great podcast. I used to listen to it all the time, every week. But after a few years, the stories are so similar. And the
Mhm.
stories are similar because the experience of people is similar. It's
Yes.
stunning, right? Well, one night I couldn't sleep and I thought, why don't I listen to it? I haven't listened to it in a long time. So people call this guy. The conversation is arranged ahead of time. Like, we'll connect at such and such a time. Your story outline sounds pretty interesting. You'll come on my show and you'll really go into the details.
Mm-hmm.
And he just lets them talk. And, sometimes there'll be one person for a whole hour telling their experience,
Mm-hmm.
which was what happened with this doctor. His name is Ogi Ogas. Very unusual name. It's indigenous Central America, Mexico. It's like, I don't know, Mayan or Incan or something.
Okay.
He told me, I just don't remember. I think his must be his father, because it's a family name, right? So he came on the show Oh, it's called The UFO Chronicles.
Okay.
And it'll blow your mind how many pilots, astronauts, military people, people who are scientists for the Department of Wildlife, just really responsible people with big jobs who are really well educated, not given to fantasy. And they tell these stories that are just remarkable. So he talked about when he was starting college, he started to worry about his mental health because he started to be hearing a male
Mhm.
voice in his head. But, he went and sought help and he was fine. There was really nothing wrong with him except this voice. And eventually, it took him down a really odd journey that I could not even begin to describe for you. It's so odd. Um, and this being told him all sorts of stuff about the origins of humankind, about the
Mhm.
reality of our consciousness, about
Mhm.
where we're headed, about what's out there. So interesting. And he was encouraged to spread this information. People need to know. And what's so creepy is that the story he tells is the same story, essentially, that a couple of other people have told that I don't think they know each other. I mean, I asked him.
Mhm.
I asked him if he knew this one guy, and he had no idea who I was talking about. It's a rock star who tells a very similar story, and
Uh-huh.
and who worked with the Pentagon. He ended up working with the Pentagon and with the Hillary Clinton administration
Mhm.
to, well, you know what happened in 2021. The Pentagon came out and said, well, folks, they're real and we've been dealing with them.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
went over like a lead balloon.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, and going back to that Jules Verne, correct? Was that who you were
Correct.
reading?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, let's think about Gene Roddenberry and the things that Gene Roddenberry created for Star Trek. And now a lot of the things that were in Star Trek are part of our everyday life. The communicators.
They
Hello.
said he was connected to something, right?
Yeah. And so, yeah, where is that connection? Where is it? And I think it's one of those things that it's a curiosity, and inspiration has to come from somewhere, whether it be for music, poetry, visual arts, science, math. I think it's a very interesting thing to are we connecting into a quantum field of some sort or field of energy.
Yeah. I
So
think
you
that's
could probably,
true. Yeah.
yeah, you probably just lost a lot of subscribers because I said that.
Why?
I don't know. I'm being a smartass.
Oh, no, people who subscribe to my channel tend to be very open-minded and very smart. I really noticed that they are willing to entertain any proposition that you would make about something. They're willing to entertain it if you can back it up with
Yeah.
research or knowledge or information. Um, he's not a doctor. Stefan Schwartz has written several books about this. He was one of the people instrumental in the government remote viewing program.
Hmm.
And so his basic theory, and this is like preschool level explanation, okay? So we're kind of like battery, we have our little energy field that connects us to the rest of the universe. And we're sort of sitting, if you can imagine, we're sitting in a soup of energy.
Hmm.
And it includes all of the past, all of the present, all of the future. Well, the past is past. It's happened. It's set in stone. You can't go back to the past and change it. It's past. That's why that paradox. Well, what if you went back to the past and you killed Hitler? It
Right.
doesn't work out like that. But you can also connect to the present, and that's remote viewing when you can see what's happening in Russia or figure out, what's going on at a distance someplace. Or you can look at the future. And the future is the most interesting because it's not determined yet. The past is over, the present is happening, but the future depends on free will choices. So there's a million different directions it can go in. But suffice it to say, we have the capability electromagnetically, if you want to reduce it to that, to connect with what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have better fine tuning than other people. It's just a matter of how good is your receiver, how good is your sender and your receiver.
Sure.
And it can be toyed with to make it work better, you know. But it does run in families, and it runs in families because you have the same physiology and anatomy genetically.
Oh, yeah.
So your little electromagnetic circuitry is probably similar. It's not a mystery. It's not, you know.
Yeah. I do think a lot of times it's I like the word mystery. Excuse me. But I also like the word, isn't it a wonder? I wonder. And if we, you know, it's just like going, wow, I wonder about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about that. What does that mean? What does that look like? Help me understand that. Because for me, moments where I look at things with a sense of wonder and curiosity are the times when I really expand and I'm open to broadening my perspective, and my intuition gets stronger, my intelligence gets stronger, my health and my overall well-being gets stronger, so that when I lean into that, when it's like, oh wow, isn't that's curious, it's like, dang. And I think that I for me, there's this sense of I don't, you know, wonder just comes into play. It's just like going, wow, look at things with that excitement of the, well, would you look at that flower?
Well, it's having an open mind, and to
Yes.
sort of torture the radio metaphor. You know how you'll listen to a radio station and the static interferes with a clear communication. So having that open mind is like tweaking your reception, and it's putting you on an energetic level,
Yes.
where you're able to connect to the possibilities. And we're living in a very sad time where an awful lot of people are shut down. They have closed minds. They don't want to be challenged by anything that disagrees with their point of view, their worldview.
Correct.
And that's unfortunate, because that's how we progress, is being open-minded and entertaining notions, right?
Exactly. Well, and what happens is just for in evolution, the species that do not evolve are the ones that go extinct.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think it's a death of the soul. I think being closed-minded, being unwilling to even entertain other possibilities, I think it's like little deaths. It's
yeah.
Why do we suppose we're here? Are we here to keep ourselves safe and never challenge ourselves and exert nothing? And you know, I've been reading, because you know I've been reading Stoic philosophy. Just don't laugh, okay? Do not laugh.
I'm not laughing.
Stoics, you know, when you say the word stoic, you think of kind of stern and unemotional and willing to suffer, being a bit of a masochist, right? Isn't that kind of what comes to
Yes.
mind. That's not really correct. They're more Eastern. They're kind of Buddhist. They believe things like, and I'm just learning, so my grasp is tenuous, but they believe things like, don't let your emotions control you. You control your emotions. Not don't have emotions, but you don't get overly angry or overly anxious or overly excited or whatever, because everything changes and you're setting yourself up for not handling things well and having problems. Learning how to control your emotional state, and it's
Hmm.
a lot of regulating your thoughts to have more personal agency. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this, which is hard when you don't really fully understand. But they believed in things like, when you get up in the morning, you wake up, you go, oh God, I have to get out of bed. I don't know if you do that, but I'm like, I don't like getting up early, and and Stoics encourage people to have this attitude of, okay, here is my opportunity to do something positive with this day, to improve myself in some way, to fix something about myself, to
Yes.
help other people in some way. This is my opportunity. And the question that they always ask is, why do you suppose you're here? Are you here to cuddle under the covers and be cozy and warm forever? Or are you here to challenge yourself and grow?
Hmm.
Oh,
I
I don't know.
Well, and I think those are important questions, and just
Yeah.
like with any philosophy or any uh anything like that, part of what happens is it's what's going on around us. It's like all great movements are a reaction to the movements that have come before it. So in order to really evolve, we have to truly understand what has come before us,
Yeah, put it in context.
put
Yeah.
it in context. Context is a great word because I don't know about you. I wake up every day. The world is different than when I went to bed. Whether or not I influenced it specifically, but I'm not the same as when I went to bed, and the world is not the same as when I went to bed. So how am I going to engage it? Am I going to keep doing what I've always done? Or am I going to use that as an opportunity to engage a little differently?
That's a very stoic worldview.
Mm.
See, when I wake up in the morning, those are not my thoughts. My thoughts are not nearly as sophisticated. They're more like, oh God, it's cold. I don't want to get out of bed.
Well, I'll be honest with you. My first thought is bathroom.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's for everybody, right? I mean, that's
And
standard. The
then,
older you get, the more urgent.
yes, yes. So, but it is that, it's, if you want to get deep and philosophical, there's so much going on in the world. Many of us are spending time thinking about bigger picture, and we're thinking about this.
Synchronicity, right?
Hmm.
I have discovered an incredible amount of synchronicity in my life. And is that confirmation bias? Or is it synchronicity? Like when you're pregnant, everybody's pregnant. All you see is
Yes.
pregnant women. I haven't seen a pregnant woman in months, which is probably a good sign for me.
Yes.
Um, but I have been presented with concepts or ideas or people that just seem to be perfect for the moment recently, the past couple of years. So a couple of weeks ago, all of a sudden, I stumble on this guy doing Stoic philosophy. I don't know Stoic. I don't know what he's talking about. Not really, right?
Uh-huh.
I started reading it and I signed up for his little daily newsletter and I've been paying attention to it. And I thought, oh my God, there could not be a better source of advice for how to deal with current events. One of the great Stoic philosophers was what they call the last good emperor, Marcus Aurelius, who was
Mm-hmm.
Roman emperor. He was this really decent man. He was a good guy. He cared about people. He was concerned about doing the right thing. He spent a lot of time in self-examination. He wasn't crazy, he wasn't warlike. He was a really good person. And he kept a journal. And in his journal, he started every day asking himself, what can I do today to improve? What can I fix today? And then every night he'd go back. What did I do today that I am proud of and that I'm not proud? I mean, really a very contemplative person, right?
Uh-huh.
One of the things that he talked about was when you wake up this morning, when you get up in the morning, you need to realize that you're going to encounter or hear about a lot of people who are selfish and angry and cruel and destructive, and just goes on this list of terrible characteristics. And he said it's really important to remember a couple of things. They're that way because of something in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
and you cannot hate them or dismiss them. They're going through their personal struggle. And so
Yes.
you have to engineer your reaction with that in mind. And I thought, oh my God, could he be talking more timely of a topic? 2,000 years ago, he wrote that.
Yeah.
I know, there's nothing you can say. It's just
Yeah.
mind boggling. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, well, and I think there's a certain, I admire people who are able to start their day and end their day with that frame of mind, and that sort of approach, those prayers, that reflection, whatever you want to call it. It's because it is what gives them strength.
Mm-hmm.
It's what gives them perspective, or helps them keep their perspective. Um,
How do you end your day?
how do I end my day?
Yeah, because I get the impression that you're talking about this practice as somebody else's practice. How do you end
Well,
your day?
I actually don't end my day like that. Usually, I'm when I lay down, I when I put my phone down, I actually try to take some breaths and just sort of relax my body enough so that I can get some good sleep.
You don't have trouble sleeping.
No, because I relax my body, I breathe, and that. So, but I don't do that. And I don't know if people, I mean, if people who are watching do this, I'm curious, what are your end of the day things? There's lots of different ways to do it. How do you go to sleep? What's your process?
Well, I find a good hour or so of 90 Day Fiance is really therapeutic. And I know I at the end of the day, late, I'm all about really bad TV. I mean, if it's edifying, I take it too seriously. I want to watch junk that I can dismiss, laugh off, go, God, those people are crazy. Aren't
Mm-hmm.
I normal? That makes me end the day on a good note. But I also like to listen going to sleep. I have narcolepsy. I could sleep anywhere, anytime, for as long as you want. Yeah, it's not a
Mm-hmm.
problem. I like to fall asleep listening to a book, or you can set the timer so you only have to back up in the morning the 45
Sure.
minutes you missed. Or there are some sites on YouTube. There's a guy who's an historian, and
Oh,
he just does great lectures on history. They're really, really good. And I listen to that. And so I know the first 5 minutes of the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, Napoleon, but just
mm-hmm.
the first 5 minutes because I'm asleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Grace Gilbert says I put on Family Guy.
Yeah, exactly. Something that doesn't require like a serious emotional commitment.
Well, if we're talking about that, I'm usually watching cooking shows. Give
Doesn't
me a good Julia Child.
same.
Give me a Jamie Oliver, just because it makes me comfortable.
But doesn't it make you hungry?
No.
Oh, I can't watch food shows because then I'm like, oh my God, I need to eat. Talk about suggestible, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting because if I am watching a TV show and I fall asleep during it, because naps are a good thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're a great thing. Those weave into my dreams. It's really bizarre. So Dexter is not a good show to fall asleep to. I don't know if you've ever watched the show Dexter.
Oh, I read all the books.
Yeah. Imagine falling asleep watching that as having that on in the background. It's like,
It's
okay.
weird. Those police procedurals, when they're based on books, often the books are about the internal dialogue. And you can't translate that. So what you end up getting oftentimes is a show that's all about the power struggle in the police department. This guy wants to be in charge, somebody else is in charge, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
I really prefer the books. I don't get freaked out by serial killer, murder, scary shows like that. I don't watch horror because it's usually ludicrous, but I could watch Silence of the Lambs and sleep like a baby.
Oh, I love Silence of the Lambs. Give me somebody weird, some psychotic guy like that who's an intelligent one. I mean, it fascinates me.
Did you ever read the first book?
Manhunter?
No. The Red Dragon.
Oh, the Red Dragon. Yes, it's such a good book.
Oh my God, did that freak you out? Because this is before cell phones, when you had a camera and you took film in. Oh my God. Oh, that was terrifying. Yep.
Rose Blue wants to know, Helen, what's the historian's name? The one you listen to.
It's called the ASMR historian, and ASMR is something to do with sensory. I don't know what it stands for. He's English. He has an English accent, and he has the most soothing voice. But I don't think he gives his name. Sorry. But it's ASMR historian, and it's incredible how much stuff he pumps out.
Yeah.
Oh my God, hours and hours every week. So good.
So, are you familiar with Kunk on Earth or Kunk? They just released a Netflix series. She's a comedian, British comedian. Kunk on Earth, Kunk on Life, Kunk on Britain, and if you have access to Netflix or YouTube, Kunk, CUNK.
Is that her last name?
That's the comedian's character's name.
Oh, okay.
And it's intelligent humor where this person is interviewing world-renowned scientists, art historians, and she's asking them just funny. Philomena Kunk. Thank you.
Is this real experts and real scientists?
They are real experts and real scientists. And Philomena Kunk, she's not the smartest interview. So when she's asking questions, she's like going, she's asking the like really dumb question because she's misheard what the person's name is.
Is it in character though?
It is totally in character.
So it's like Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yes.
Sacha Baron. You know who I mean.
What's he called? What's his Joan Johnson. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look into it. Philomena, I have a like a cousin-in-law whose name is Philomene, a very Irish first name.
Mm-hmm. So
A secret prison full. Oh God.
serial killers and
Oh, that has promise.
yeah. But
Is Net TV, is that Netflix or is that an abbreviation for something?
it's probably Netflix. But it's one of those things that I love intelligent humor where there's this, it's just like going, oh my God, that is exactly what they're saying, but that is completely not what the meaning of it is. It's just so good.
Have you
Yeah.
ever heard of John Fugelsang?
Yes.
He is my hero. I love him because, you know, he survived. His mother was a nun and his father was a monk.
Oh,
And
my.
they met and left their orders. And he was raised very Catholic, and he was raised on the Bible, very Catholic. And now he's this extremely progressive comedian, but he's got the ammunition to meet the fundamentalists on
Mhm.
common ground. And oh my God. Oh, he is so funny.
Wendy
Love
Schneider said the experts during the Kunk On series, the experts are told to keep a straight face and just go along with it. I don't know how they don't laugh because I mean they are not prepared for what Philomena says.
Oh, that's maybe they edit it. Maybe they have to.
Well, they probably do some editing, but I
Yeah.
have to say, Wendy, you're right because you'll see some of these people who are
Deadpan, right?
yeah, they're deadpan and they're because
Good
it's
for
just
them.
like, well, it's like, okay, so when they're looking at piece of artwork where somebody first started to pay attention to perspective,
Yeah.
it's like, what was the world like before there was perspective? Before this person, discovered perspective, and it's like, oh my
Oh, I
gosh.
love that. Well, you know what they say? They did these studies way back. It's so long ago, I don't even remember. The Dark Ages, like the 1990s, maybe even earlier than that. It was in something like Scientific American or Psychology Today, a long time ago. They did this extensive study, and I don't know what the variables, I don't know how they did it, but the conclusion was that sense of humor is directly proportional to IQ. That people who don't have a sense of humor, it's usually because they're not getting the irony.
Oh,
Isn't that interesting?
that's very interesting. And are you a Monty Python fan?
Some, yes. One of my very favorite scenes in any movie is from a Monty Python movie, The Life of Brian, where they're parsing the grammar on the graffiti on the Roman wall. Romans go. Oh, it's Jerusalem. Romans go home in Latin. And I used to teach Latin, and they parse this grammar, and it's just how many Romans?
Well, and it's just so good. Have you seen the movie Dogma?
Oh, the movie I just saw was Conclave.
Okay. Now
Yeah,
this
no,
is an
Dogma.
older film.
I don't know
And
who's in it. What's the movie?
Matt Damon. And the reason I bring that up is as you were talking about John Fugelsang.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And being raised Catholic, I'm watching this movie Dogma, and everything that they're saying is what is written in the Bible. It's factual, but when you actually look at it exactly what they're saying, it's like, boy, that's really weird. So they're taking the dogma literally. And it's actually my Dogma is my favorite Easter movie to watch.
Is Matt Damon like a priest or?
No, he's it's a comedy.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Well,
comedy. Yeah.
you heard it here first. Breaking news. I'm starting a new book for Saturday.
Yes.
And I'm following along in a series by a writer called Paul Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
He's written a series of books. He's a linguist. He's an Anglican minister who he's a theologian, and he is a teacher of pastors. And so you think, oh, I don't know about this guy. He broke his leg, and it was like 9 months recovering from this broken leg. It was really bad. He was playing ultimate frisbee as an adult. So, he has no one to blame but himself, right?
Yes, yes.
And he is a linguist. He speaks all these ancient languages. And he said, for years there have been inconsistencies in the original primary source material that he's read as a linguist and in the stuff that is in the modern day literature, liturgy. And he took all these ancient scriptural sources and went through them word by word and translated them accurately according to the grammar and the context, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what he discovered was this unifying story globally from ancient literature everywhere in the world that tells the same story about the origins of humankind. And the only reason that we all disagree with each other now, indigenous people don't agree with the Christian Bible, et cetera, is because people who wanted to keep charge manipulated. Most of the populace was illiterate and had to believe what they were told.
Right.
And okay. So without going into enormous detail, I've been covering his books here and there so as not to overwhelm with too much of it. And we're doing the next book this weekend. And it's exactly what you're talking about. You go, hey, wait a minute. That's not what it really says. It's very interesting.
Yeah. She Passed Me said they love the movie Dogma. And Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are angels that get kicked out of heaven, and a demon finds a loophole so they can go back. But that would be the end of the world. And it's
Is this an older movie?
It is an older movie, yes.
Okay.
And so it's one of those things that you watch it at one level and it's like, ha, 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 ha. But then you watch it at another level and you go, oh, ooh, yeah. Ooh. Okay.
I might really like that. Okay. Well, let's make this our last question because we've been here a while.
Okay.
Time flies when you're knitting socks. Oh my God. I just pulled this at random. I swear to you. I reached over and there was one card semi-sticking out, but it was, all I could see was this side. I had no idea what it said.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask the question, and if you would rather not answer it, I understand. But oh my God. Hold on. I put my glasses on for this. Name a U.S. president that you think did the worst job. I'm not making that up.
Well, but
do I have to?
But was he really elected?
Let's pretend.
Okay. Well, current events are an indicator for me. So the numbers 4 and 5 seem to make a lot of sense, and the number 47 makes a lot of sense to me. Those are what my first impression. What about you?
Well, my knowledge of all of the U.S. presidents is not really strong. I think Andrew Jackson stands out as a really evil person.
Yes.
He was responsible for the Trail of Tears. Yes. When, Georgia was basically its own nation run by the Native Americans there. I forget which tribe, but they had their own government, their own set of laws, their own hierarchy, their own customs. And a lot of them were leading kind of for lack of a better word, a white person's life. I mean, they were farming. They weren't living a necessarily fully traditional life.
Yes.
But, Andrew Jackson was an asshole.
That's true.
He was terrible and a racist. And yes. They wanted the land. And so they took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, no, this is an autonomous country. this area in Georgia. We signed treaties with these people. We're not going to break those. We have no right to do that. And so, no, you can't march your military in there and take over their land. And Andrew Jackson basically said to the Supreme Court, stop me. And that was when they had the Trail of Tears. They went in with jackbooted thugs. They went in and pulled people out of sick beds, women in labor, old people who were dying, people sitting at the kitchen table having dinner, you know. They just hauled them away in whatever condition, left animals in the barn and pets running, and just marched them all out. And like a huge percentage of them died on the way. They weren't fed. They had no food, no water, inadequate clothing, no place to stay at night, and subject to illness, right? And they were preyed upon along the march. You know, think about what that means, because you're right. That's exactly what that means. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So he was pretty awful. But then you also have, which one was it? Was it Johnson after Lincoln, who, I could be wrong about this, revoked all of the progress they made freeing the slaves and everything, like, you know, votes for the slave. What's it called? Reconstruction.
Yeah.
And established Jim Crow. So I don't know. And then there's Richard Nixon.
Yeah, we're certainly not blameless. And yeah. Oh,
I suppose we have to just know that they're human, right?
Yeah, well, Wendy Schneider popped in here's an example of a kunk question. Do you think Karl Marx was a Marxist because of his name, or was it just a coincidence?
God.
And in Dogma, George Carlin plays a Catholic priest.
Oh, he's one of my heroes. Love George Carlin. Did you know that George Carlin dropped out of school in the 6th grade?
No, really?
He was in a Catholic school and he couldn't get along with the nuns. He just quit. And his family was dysfunctional, you know, and he just left.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? So, yeah, he's a smart man. Was a smart man.
Yeah. Helen, this has been so much fun.
It always is, isn't it? I mean, we always have a great time talking together.
Yes, and we were able to talk about some current events and the sense of fashion or lack thereof.
That UFO that landed on her head, that was pretty epic.
Yes,
right?
That shaded her face.
Too bad we don't have any opinions.
You know, I will promise to, I'll make myself a note that I will come with more opinions next time.
Yeah, pick a couple of topics that you can get all heated up about, so that we have something to talk about. And, you know, don't want to bore people.
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about how crochet is not as good as knitting or something like that. I'm kidding.
I can't crochet. I don't know what's wrong. There's something like neurologically wrong with me. I've had so many talented people try to teach me how to crochet, and it makes no sense to me. Isn't that weird?
Well, I can't read a crochet chart. Those freaking scare me.
Well, I didn't even get that far.
Holy mackerel. I can crochet a washcloth.
Well, see, that's an accomplishment. I've had people show me how to crochet, and in about 10 minutes, you know, you look at it and you pull, and the whole thing just
well, there you go.
Done.
Yeah. So,
how is Tunisian? What does that mean?
Tunisian. I think it's Tunisian crochet.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
But it's a different form of crochet, and I don't know it. So, but
you're welcome, Teresa. Teresa's my favorite girl's name. No offense, anybody. Helen's not my favorite name. Teresa's my oldest daughter. I love that name. It was my mother, my daughter, my sister, and my cousin. I went to a party in Ireland last time I was back with my family. This is hilarious. There were probably 50 people in the room, and there were 3 names.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 7 Patricks, 8 Michaels,
Yep.
10
Yep.
Teresas, 3 Helens.
Tell me you're Catholic without telling me you're Catholic.
I know, it's so true. Well, how's this?
So,
How's
well,
this?
and Grace said Tunisian is a combination of crochet and knitting.
Oh my God. Just when I thought there was only one thing that tortured me.
Yeah.
I can't
And
imagine.
Sherry Kenna said there was that knit to purl to controversy for the sock. See, Sherry's trying to get it because I'm like going, oh, I'm gonna do a knit to purl to
Why
red.
is that a controversy?
It's because I'm trying to stir the turd. It's not.
But is that a bad thing to do?
No. Are you kidding? Me?
Are you're going against convention?
When would I ever go against convention?
You're so conventional. I can't imagine.
I am so straight laced. I mean, you know, I am so straight, you know, my husband cannot handle it.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I horrify my children. I mean, they're just, oh my God, Mom. They spend their day. Oh my God.
You know, I actually think that's good parenting.
I do too. It's a challenge, you know, it makes them think, it keeps them on their toes.
Because, you know, it helps them to go, you know, sooner or later they're going to go, you do realize I am who I am because of my parents, right? I mean, they're going to have to make that connection.
Sad to tell you this, but it's usually after the parents are dead.
I know, but you're doing your best so that they do it now while you're alive so you can get the popcorn and enjoy it.
I told them, depending on the sorts of choices that they make, I'm coming back to haunt them.
You could always pass out. You could always pass out Ouija boards at your funeral. Let's stay in touch.
Oh, God. Well, you know, I'll end this here. I have a collection of Irish teapots, bleak china, that I've collected for decades, right? And my kids want nothing to do with them. They're just totally not interested in china. It's an old person's thing. So my husband and I and my husband agreed. I came up with this great idea, and we decided against it for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is the economy right now. And excuse me, we're a little worried about what direction we're going in, right? So what my goal was this summer, I called a crematorium and tried to arrange our cremations ahead, you know, and was negotiating with the guy for the cost. I said, look, I'll throw me in the back of the Suburban. They'll drop me off, put me in a cardboard box, and toss in a match. I don't care. He was horrified.
Of course he was.
Yeah. And he says, well, how much do you think it should be? And I said, I don't know. Cardboard box and a match. I don't know. $800. He went, oh my God. So this was what we were going to do. I have 5 daughters. We're going to take 5 of the teapots and put 2 unopened Ziploc bags in each teapot. And then when the time comes, they can put ashes in there, and they can have a memorial to us. Each of them can have a little memorial to us together for eternity. I thought that was sentimental. But we decided.
But some people, that would freak some people out.
The guy at the crematorium was pretty horrified. My husband and I were rolling on the floor laughing. The whole conversation it was like an hour conversation. It was hilarious because, you know, come on. I said, how much does it cost? A cardboard box and a match? Okay.
Yeah.
Enough disrespect. She would die for the teapots? Oh, really? Well, you know, send me your email.
There you go.
Okay. I guess we're done here. Our work here is done. Look, I think I got 3 more rows.
So then I should have I should try to get to the the heel.
Let's try to make that commitment, but no punishment if we don't succeed.
Oh, well, of course. But then my question is are you doing the heel flap or are we turning the heel?
Do you have to get technical right now? Because I'm still thinking about just finishing the round.
No, just we'll figure it out.
I have made a pair of socks. I was going to show you, and they turned out beautifully. But it's like I had a little blackout, and I don't remember anything that I did. And I know that it was enormously frustrating, and I almost cried. And it took me forever to figure out the heel. But then, they turned out beautifully.
Yes.
Yeah. Gerald, thank you, my friend. You're wonderful. It's so much fun.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for joining us. This is my very tentative foray into live streaming. I'm terrified.
And you handled it very well.
Thank you. Well, never mind. You had to interpret everything because I can't see.
Well, that's why I'm here. It works.
That's right. Too bad it's not in Braille, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, you guys. Slán go fóill, slán, you just keep on knitting. Bye.